Welcome to the debate. Look at a simple gold necklace. To you, it might just be jewelry. To an Egyptologist, it's an artifact of ancient wealth, a marker of status dug out of the sands of time. But, well, what if it's actually a billion-ton cloud of solar plasma hiding in plain sight?
Yeah, what if that piece of jewelry is not a terrestrial object at all, but a highly advanced schematic of the stars?
Right. Today, we're examining the true significance and original meaning of the ancient Egyptian Nebu hieroglyph, which is categorized by scholars as Gardner S12.
It is the symbol universally recognized as representing gold, but the standard interpretation asks us to look at it in a very compartmentalized way, completely, severing the earthly artifact from the sky it was meant to reflect.
Which brings us to our central question. Is the Nebu hieroglyph fundamentally a representation of earthly metallurgy, physical wealth, and royal titularies? Or is it an advanced astronomical schematic encoding deep cosmic knowledge about solar prominences and planetary bodies?
Exactly. And this discussion emerges directly from our source material, which is a fascinating and honestly quite provocative text titled The Collar of Gold S12 Hieroglyph. The text directly contrasts standard Egyptological interpretations with what it terms the sound-right cosmic reasoning of known science and entities like superknown.
So, to lay out our positions briefly, I will be arguing that the evidence firmly grounds the glyph in terrestrial metallurgy and royal ornamentation.
And I will be arguing that the glyph's visual anomalies and cultural context reveal an encoded understanding of solar physics and celestial deities.
Okay, I think the best place to anchor this is in the tangible, historical, and linguistic evidence that we actually have on record. I mean, the Nebu glyph, Gardner S12, depicts a physical object. If you look at it, it represents a golden collar. You have the main band, you have the tied ends hanging off the sides, and you have 7 spines or beads dangling from the middle.
Right, the standard visual reading.
Yeah, and in Middle Egyptian, this symbol functioned with incredible mundane utility. It was used as an ideogram for the word gold, the Egyptian word nebu, which centuries later evolved into the Coptic nub. Furthermore, Old Kingdom tomb scenes explicitly depict dwarfs engaging in the intense physical labor of metalworking the gold and stringing the pearls of gold. So the symbol is deeply embedded in earthly reality. It named the physical geography of the city of Ombos, known as Nebet, and was, a core part of human craftsmanship.
I come at it from a different way. Relying solely on the phonetic and mundane utility of the collar severely limits our understanding of how the ancient Egyptians conceptualized the universe itself. They absolutely did not view gold merely as a commodity to be traded or, melted down into currency.
Well, they definitely valued it highly.
Oh, beyond highly. The text explicitly notes that ancient Egyptians believed gold was an indestructible and heavenly metal. I mean, the sun god Ra was literally referred to as a mountain of gold. There is a celestial equivalence at play here. When you take the Nebu glyph and invert it, turn it upside down or sideways, the hanging loops and spines perfectly mirror modern astronomical observations of solar prominences and coronal mass ejections.
The solar flares, basically.
Right. The source argues this symbol represents not just mundane gold, but the celestial orbs themselves, specifically the sun, or Ra, and his wives Utitar, which is Jupiter, and Satuna, which is Saturn. All of these share that same yellow golden light.
Let's look closely at that visual shape, because the way we interpret the physical drawing is really the crux of the issue here. My perspective is that the physical description of a large gold and pearl necklace perfectly accounts for the shape of the glyph. A necklace has clasps or ties that hang down. It has decorative spines that dangle from the center. It behaves exactly as a piece of gravity-bound jewelry would behave on a human neck.
But the inversion...
See, I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, because taking an ancient drawing of a necklace, flipping it upside down and mapping it onto modern NASA and RESI spacecraft data feels like a massive leap. We're talking about 10,000-kilometer magnetic solar loops here. Isn't this just a classic case of pareidolia, looking at clouds and seeing shapes? It feels like retrofitting highly advanced modern solar physics onto a relatively simple terrestrial ornament.
I don't think it's pareidolia at all.
when you consider the profound physical accuracy of the comparison and how it aligns with their broader cosmology. Our source material points out that modern astronomers just recently found a star containing 65 different elements.
Okay, 65 elements.
Yeah. And this modern discovery actually confirms what the text calls the African ancestors' claim, that the celestial bodies, like Nuwaubu, which we can understand as the original cosmic mind or the supreme celestial force, actually contain these physical earthly elements within them. The boundary between earthly metal and star stuff just didn't exist for them in the way our modern scientific disciplines separate them.
I appreciate that the ancients saw a poetic or, even religious connection between the sun and gold. That's well documented. But a visual similarity when a hieroglyph is inverted doesn't necessarily imply intentional design of a solar schematic.
That's a compelling argument. But have you considered the exact mechanics of what the source describes regarding the sun? We aren't just talking about a vague semicircle that kind of looks like a necklace. We're talking about the specific physics of magnetic fields on the sun, which operate on a massive scale.
A mind-boggling scale, yes. These start out as small loops of magnetism connecting sunspots. Through a process called magnetic reconnection, they get twisted. Imagine twisting a rubber band until the tension is so high it snaps and reforms. They collide and reconnect into much larger structures, growing into solar prominences that can extend into the corona, spanning the entire diameter of the sun. The visual correlation between the dangling loops of the Nuwaubu glyph and these billion-ton clouds of plasma in solar helmet streamers is stunningly precise. The ancients understood that what happens in the heavens is physically mirrored on Earth.
So you are suggesting that they possessed a working knowledge of coronal physics? I am suggesting they encoded the physical reality of the cosmos into their symbols. The collar isn't just jewelry. It is a scaled-down schematic of how solar energy behaves. The loops of the necklace represent the magnetic loops of the sun.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. To argue that the collar is a schematic of a coronal mass ejection requires us to ignore the very people who are depicted making it.
The metal workers?
Exactly. If we look at the actual archaeological record, we have to look at the dwarves. The text we are examining explicitly mentions Old Kingdom scenes showing dwarves metalworking the gold and stringing the pearls of gold. We have the physical artifacts from the tombs, and we have the ancient artwork showing humans, specifically humans with dwarfism, sitting at earthly workbenches.
Right, the tomb reliefs?
Yes, and they're using blowpipes to stoke terrestrial fire to melt and shape earthly metal. This directly ties the Nuwaubu symbol to a bustling earthly industry, not a celestial physics laboratory.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. You are applying a purely utilitarian Western lens to a culture that operated entirely on spiritual and cosmic resonance. When we look at those scenes of metallurgy, you see an earthly workbench. The ancient Egyptians saw an alchemical process of harnessing the divine.
An alchemical process?
Absolutely. The source draws heavily on the explicit definition of the word celestial, meaning pertaining to the universe beyond the Earth's atmosphere, the heavenly or divine realm. In ancient Kemet, dwarfs and pygmies were not merely manual laborers sitting at workbenches. Especially during the early dynastic and Old Kingdom periods, they were revered as beings with supernatural powers and celestial gifts.
I certainly don't deny that dwarves held specialized and sometimes revered roles in Egyptian society. They were often associated with the god Bes and held prominent positions in royal households. But I mean, they were still flesh and blood humans engaging in the physical craftsmanship of jewelry making.
But look at the cosmological peak of that reverence, which explains why they were the ones working the gold. In ancient Kemet, the creator god of all was Ptah, who was himself depicted as a dwarf.
Ah, the Memphite theology?
Yes, according to the Memphite theology on the Shabaka stone from the 25th dynasty, Ptah conceived the world in his mind and brought it into being through the creative power of speech.
Was Ptah, the god of creation. Unlike other deities, He didn't shape the world with his hands. He spoke it into being, a concept found in Memphite theology and even some Bible stories. Known as the great architect of the universe, Ptah was the patron of builders, artists, and metalworkers. Revered in worship and even honoured in the hymn to Ptah, his influence is preserved in the Shabaka stone, an ancient text revealing his role in creation. But is this part of the stolen legacy? Some believe his teachings connect to observational astronomy and the sacred wisdom of Kemet. Could Ptah hold secrets that shaped civilization itself? And
he crafted the world in the design of his heart and gave life to all the gods through his tongue. It is a profound concept of creation through logos and divine intellect. If the supreme creator God himself, the architect of the universe, was a dwarf, how can we reduce the earthly dwarves who are working the heavenly metal to mere earthly jewelers?
You are saying it was a ritual act?
Exactly. They are ritually reenacting the creation of the cosmos. By shaping the gold, they are manipulating the celestial substance of Ra. They are doing on Earth what Ptah did in the cosmos. It's not an industry, it's a sacred science.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Even if we accept the ritual and religious significance of the laborers, the actual linguistic transmission of the glyph points to a highly structured, continuous tradition of human language, not an esoteric celestial code. Let's talk about how the Nebu symbol actually functioned in writing. It was systematically used as a determinative.
For those who might not know the exact mechanics of a determinative, how would you describe it?
A determinative in Egyptian hieroglyphs is essentially a silent symbol placed at the end of a word to give it context. Think of it like an emoji at the end of a text message. If I text you the word bat with a baseball emoji, you know I mean sports equipment. If I use a little animal emoji, you know I mean the flying mammal. I don't pronounce the emoji, but it entirely changes the meaning.
Right, it gives the silent context.
Exactly. The Nebu glyph did exactly this. For example, when placed after the name of the goddess Hathor, it functioned as a determinative that changed her epithet to the Golden One. It is also a key component of the fivefold titulary, specifically the Horus of Gold name, which structured the pharaoh's political and divine right to rule on earth. We have an unbroken, thoroughly documented linguistic record of how this symbol was used in syntax and grammar. It doesn't require us to invoke a lost cosmic science to understand its function.
Yet the source material explicitly introduces an epistemological framework to explain why this deep cosmic meaning isn't found in your standard linguistic textbooks or orthodox Egyptology. And this is where the source makes its most radical claim. The text argues that the true, advanced meaning of the glyph was lost to humanity, specifically to the Nanabelis, referring to the original African ancestors due to a 6,000-year moon cycle.
Right. This is what the text refers to as a period of mental death. But we really need to unpack what the source means by that.
We do, because it's the linchpin of why the knowledge supposedly disappeared. The text states this 6,000-year lunar cycle plunged the race into mental death, which it describes as the worst of all deaths. It wasn't a physical dying off, but a massive degradation of consciousness. The source explains that during this cycle, humanity lived in a state where they were susceptible to manipulation by what it calls sixth ether, gamma radiation, and ghost gases, known to modern Caucasian scientists as ghost neutrinos.
Okay, wait, let's pause on that terminology because 6-ether, gamma radiation, and ghost neutrinos are incredibly specific and, frankly, highly esoteric terms. From a standard scientific perspective, neutrinos are just subatomic particles with virtually no mass that pass through the Earth constantly. But the source is using these terms very differently, correct?
Yes, completely differently. In the context of this specific sound-right cosmic reasoning, the term 6-ether is used to describe a denser, lower, and more chaotic form of energy. Think of it like a planetary radio jammer blocking a pure cosmic frequency.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and when the 6-ether energy became dominant during the 6,000-year moon cycle, it literally clouded human consciousness. The ghost neutrinos represent an invisible, manipulative force that kept humanity in a state of amnesia about their true celestial origins. Because of this massive temporal and spiritual disruption, the true cosmic reasoning of the Nebuglyph and the entire ancient science of the cosmos was forgotten,
leaving us with only the mundane linguistic shell that you see in the grammar books.
And the text argues this original meaning is only now being restored.
Right. The source points out that various figures in the modern era attempted to uncover this, but failed or distorted it. It specifically calls out Mr. Prince York, who is also known as Quincy Ramses, and groups like the Sabians or Nuwaubians.
It's highly critical of them.
Very critical. The text claims they presented incorrect, stolen information about the gold collar. They allegedly made up meanings, switching the word Nubu to Nuwaubu, and totally failed to attribute the symbol to the sun and the celestial orbs.
This is what I want to say, and I'm laughing right now because it's funny because people still ain't learned their lesson, you know? People still feel the need to be saying my name. You know what I mean? So that being said, I'm gonna make an example out of Prince York right the fuck now. I'm gonna make an example out of him and Daddy Malachi. Now, a lot of people like to say, Pharaoh, don't come at Malachi York. That's no. Prince York in his most latest video delivered a message to me from Malachi York, so I'm gonna be delivering the message back. So this is all in exchange. We gonna flex Prince York right now. First of all, Prince York, you a motherfucking liar. Stop lying, nigga. Do not get on Saturday TV talking about something. I was trying to agree with young Pharaoh with the meta nature, which no the fuck you wasn't. The whole reason this meta nature shit popped off, because it started with me and you, because you said that the Nuwaupu language came from the translation of the meta nature through the Rosetta Stone and the Emerald tablets. And I said the meta nature has never been translated, so how did you get your language from them? And I went to go into my reasons for, this argument. So now you saying that you agree with me, right? But you lying. But let's say you do agree with me and people never watch the tape and they don't got ears and they don't know how to hear you clearly say that the Nuwaupu language came from the meta nature. Now you saying this shit came from the Emerald tablets, and you sitting here saying that Malachi York himself told you to tell me that it came from 4 of the oldest languages in Africa, being Ge'ez, Sabian, Ethiopian script, and there was another script, Sub-Saharan script. Now let me tell you, I use a motherfucking lie. First of all, how is you saying the Nuwaupu language is older than the meta nature when all the motherfucking languages that Malachi York, because now I'm smacking you and Malachi York right now, so you run tell Daddy this. How did Daddy come up with a language that's supposed to be older than the damn meta nature when all of the 4 languages that you just said came after the motherfucking meta nature? So you said the Ge'ez. Go look up the Ge'ez language in Africa. I looked it up. The Ge'ez language is no older than 4th century BC. I mean AD. So for those of you who don't know, 4th century AD is from about 300 AD to 400 AD. So guess what they was doing during the same time period? Nigga, they was Constantine and them was creating Christianity, bro. So the language that you use to foundate the Nuwaupians is damn near the same age as Christianity. So why is this important? The meta nature is thousands of years older than that. Now when we go into the Sabian script that you said going to. The Sabian script goes back no further than 7th century BC. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's about from 600 to 700 BC, like before they try to say before Christ died. So now if you was to add up the age of these languages, both of them combined are no more than 2,500 to 3,000 years old. So now why is this important? You're motherfucking lying, nigga. You didn't get these languages off no 75,000-year-old tablet when they only at maximum 2,500 years old. So if you did, you got about 72,500 years of distance between the creation of these languages. So now why else is this important? You just now admit it because you lied before. You didn't say that they came from the meta nature. You was on the stance that the meta nature had been translated and that's where y'all derived y'all language from. Now you saying it hasn't. So since you going with me now and you saying it hasn't been and the meta nature is Greek, by default you have to throw the Emerald tablets in the garbage now because the same people who alleged to have translated the Rosetta Stone alleged to have translated the goddamn Emerald tablet, nigga. So stop lying.
The text posits that the actual complete facts are only now being restored through the sound-right cosmic reasoning of Nuwaupu and entities like Marcia, which it identifies as the orb Mars. So when you point to the unbroken linguistic record, the source's framework argues that that record is exactly what you would expect to find. It is the artifact of a civilization operating under the veil of that 6,000-year amnesia.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. I understand that the source establishes this elaborate framework to validate its claims. It has to explain why no one else sees this. I also recognize the text's internal dispute. It is actively correcting what it views as stolen or incorrect information presented by Mr. Prince York and the Nuwaubians.
Right.
However, correcting a modern esoteric misinterpretation doesn't automatically mean we must accept the 6,000-year moon cycle, the 6 ether gamma radiation causing global amnesia, or the interventions of the planetary orbs as living entities. The traditional academic understanding of the Egyptian language doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It stands firmly on its own vast body of cross-reference evidence. It translates seamlessly across thousands of papyri, monumental inscriptions, agricultural receipts, and trade documents. We don't need to posit a global mental death to explain a symbol that works perfectly well, mathematically and syntactically as a representation of a gold necklace.
But if you only read the trade documents, you only see a trade good. The Egyptian worldview was never that compartmentalized. You mentioned the determinative earlier, how placing the Nebu glyph after Hathor makes her the golden one. Let's look at that. Hathor wasn't just a lady who liked jewelry, she was a profound sky goddess.
Yes, the domain of the sky.
Exactly. She is intrinsically linked to the sun, the Milky Way, and the stars. The pharaoh's horse of gold name isn't just about the physical wealth sitting in his treasury. It is about his immortal, indestructible nature, his alignment with the celestial mechanics of the universe. When the source talks about the orbs, the sun, Jupiter, and Saturn, sharing that yellow golden light, it is explaining the physical mechanism of their cosmology. Gold was the physical manifestation of starlight condensed on Earth. By dismissing the cosmic reasoning as just retrofitting, you risk ignoring the very real possibility that the ancients understood the energetic and magnetic correlations between the sun's plasma and the metal they were pulling from the ground.
Well, it's time we pull our perspectives together as we close out today's discussion. My position remains firmly rooted in the empirical and linguistic record, which I believe paints a brilliant picture of human achievement on its own. The Nebu glyph Gardner S12 is deeply ingrained in Middle Egyptian syntax, in the royal fivefold titulary, and in the physical depictions of earthly metalworking by human laborers. While it certainly carried heavy religious and metaphorical significance, it fundamentally represents physical gold, the terrestrial wealth of ancient Egypt, and the tangible, remarkable craftsmanship of the era.
And my position is that stopping at the physical collar strips the symbol of its profound original power and vastly underestimates the scientific and cosmological genius of the ancients. By applying the text's sound-right cosmic reasoning, we see the explicit, intentional links between gold, the sun, and planetary orbs like Utar and Saturna. The undeniable visual parallels between the inverted glyph's loops and the massive magnetic fields of solar prominences suggest a civilization whose understanding of the cosmos was seamlessly integrated into their earthly lives.
I think where we absolutely converge, and where both standard Egyptology and the text cosmic reasoning align perfectly, is the fundamental nature of how this metal was viewed. The ancient Egyptians viewed gold as much more than a commodity to be hoarded.
Oh, absolutely. It was an indestructible and heavenly metal. It didn't tarnish, it didn't rust, it was eternal.
Exactly. It was quite literally considered the flesh of the gods. It inextricably linked to the earthly realm of human industry to the divine realm of the cosmos. Whether you view that link as a beautiful religious metaphor or a literal advanced astronomical schematic of solar physics, gold was a bridge between the dirt and the stars.
Which perfectly shows the immense value of looking at ancient symbols through multiple frameworks. When you are willing to place the standard linguistic history alongside esoteric cosmic reasoning, you realize how much more there is to explore regarding how ancient populations conceptualized the universe they lived in.
We leave the final judgment to you, our listeners. The next time you find yourself walking through a museum, looking through the glass of a display case at a simple collar of gold resting on velvet, take a step back, tilt your head, look at it again.
And ask yourself what you might really be looking at.
Yeah.